Welcome back. It is time for Inside Hollywood. Here are Freda and Hawk. It's so good to see you and great to have you back for 2021.
We're really excited to be back too. Thank you for giving us this space. We look forward to a very exciting year. Dawn, I'm exceptionally excited to hear your interview for one reason. I've been a great fan ever since IFP West. So I'm looking forward to this interview, and Hawk is going to just do a great job, as always.
Well, thanks, Freda, and thanks, Jennifer, and thanks to all the residents and everybody on Facebook that's watching this. For those of you who don't know, very proud of the fact that our whole motion picture home, staff and residents, have been vaccinated on their first dose. And I just think that's a great thing for all of us. And now I'm going to talk about the interview today, because I get to interview a very important person in our industry. Let me just say that Dawn Hudson is the CEO of the Academy. She has done a terrific job through many, many crises at the Academy, and she's still standing. Unbelievable. That is a big accomplishment. We worked together when I was president of the Academy, and we continue to work on many, many issues at the Academy. But most important, Dawn is my friend. So without any further introduction, please welcome Dawn Hudson. Hi, Dawn.
Hey, Hawk.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Freda. That was fantastic. You have that old calendar. I used to write those calendars. So.
Well, we're excited that you're here. And before we get started, for those of you who have been living under a rug for the last 5 days, I want you to know, Dawn, that I and the rest of the board of directors of the Motion Picture Academy of MPTF are so thrilled and honored that we are getting the Gene Herschelt Award, which, if you can see behind me, that Oscar up there, my father won the Oscar for the Gene Herschelt in 1989. So means a lot to me. Thank you.
Hawk, I just have to say that brings tears to my eyes. It's all, coming around, but
Right.
It's the work, this incredible work, Bob Beecher and your whole team and the board of directors there. You've saved so many lives and you've made so many lives better. And we're all, I speak for the entire industry in gratitude. Thanks.
Thanks. So let's start with this little lady here was born in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Now tell us about growing up in Hot Springs, Arkansas. A long way from Hollywood.
It is a long ways from Hollywood. It's a small town, about 40,000 population. I don't think that's changed since I left. But it's interesting because it's not as parochial as you might think. We had horse races there, thoroughbred horse races, and a lot of gambling, a lot of illegal gambling when I was growing up. And then Bobby Kennedy came and sort of cleaned that up in Hot Springs. But there was a little mini kind of Las Vegas circuit going on. So a lot of people came through, the entertainers came through, Julie London and Tony Bennett. And so people descended during the horse races from Chicago and from the East. So it wasn't as isolated as you might think. It was a lawless town, really. That's where I grew up. A small town, but a lawless town.
And did you and your family, was there a movie theater? Did you go to the movies?
There was a Malco and Paramount theaters, and I remember it wasn't a big feature of my childhood. I remember seeing It's a Mad, 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 Mad World when I was whatever.
What's the big W?
Well, exactly.
The Mad, Mad World.
Yeah, I know. From that I do remember. I remember sitting on the front row and having candy, and that was spectacular. But I think about the movies growing up. It wasn't, the one area really that I saw a lot of movies was sitting up with my mom late at night because my father was a bartender. and he would come home late. She'd have to go pick him up. So she needed company while she was waiting to pick him up. And she'd have a cigarette between us on the couch. She'd be smoking, and we would watch completely inappropriate movies for me. Lolita, I remember. I mean, whatever was on. And so without understanding I was watching an art form or watching, this film, I was watching movies pretty much nonstop. But I would say my main exposure to culture was just books. I was one of those kids where my mom was, you have to go outside, you have to stop reading, and I under the covers with a flashlight and all of that. And I think it was really narrative that got me in, loving film.
Well, okay. So now in elementary school, junior high, were you an organizer? Let's
Yes.
vote for Dawn for student body, whatever.
Yes, I did the whole small town thing. Cheerleader, captain of the cheerleaders, organized walk for cancer. Yes, the whole shebang.
Were
Yeah,
you
because
were you an actress also? Were you in school
no, I
plays?
wasn't in the theater program there. I didn't even know that there was I mean, I knew there was a theater program, but those were not, not part of my crowd, sort of, in high school. But and I didn't even know that, in a weird way, it's like I didn't even know art existed. I know that
Wow.
sounds, but Hawk, I was thinking your background and my background are diametrically opposed. I did not know anything that there was a jobs in the movies, or there was something called a movie film community, movie industry. I knew none of that. I watched movies. I went to, on a date with my boyfriend to watch a movie and get a pizza, but it didn't dawn on me that this was an art form or this was a cultural phenomenon at all growing up. It
you
was
remember-
books and whatever activities we were involved in.
Did you have an ambition in high school? Oh, I wish I was, like a guy. I want to be FBI, or I want to be a soldier.
I was weirdly, I got involved in politics in high school because that was when Richard Nixon was escalating the number of sending troops. The whole Vietnam War was so, it was really clear to me this is a bad idea. I don't even know where I got this idea in Hot Springs, because it's really the 1950s in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I talked my mom into voting for McGovern. I mean, it was, was too young to vote, but I just said, this is bad. I don't think this is a good thing for our country. So it made me more politically active in high school. And so when I went to, I didn't know that there was jobs. The only jobs I knew you had was a teacher, maybe a doctor, or, I didn't know that there were jobs. I didn't even have a plan, Hawk.
But you went, all right, but you got in from Hot Springs, Arkansas. A woman got into Harvard. I mean,
there were very few of us from Arkansas getting into Harvard. Yes.
And were you in high school? Were you like the valedictorian? I mean,
yes, I wasn't valedictorian, but I was in the National Honor Society, and someone from Harvard and from the 7 sister colleges, they called them then, came to our high school and said, if any of you are interested in applying to these colleges, we're interested in you. It was like that. And I just applied to Radcliffe. It was called Radcliffe then. Or Harvard Radcliffe, I guess. I applied to Radcliffe, and then if I didn't go to Harvard, I would have gone to the University of Arkansas. I didn't have a big plan. I didn't have ambitions like that. I just had
wear one of those pig hats.
Exactly, the Razorbacks. Woo, pig suey. I can go toe to toe with college football with you. But
did you major in political science when you got to college?
They called it government. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I majored in government, and I snuck into Boston and studied dance. I loved the arts. I loved when I learned, I took photography all through college. I lived at the Crimson as a photographer. I just lived in the darkroom there. But again, it's not putting 2 and 2 together. I didn't know that these were professions. I didn't know people could make a living doing that. But I will say in college is really where I discovered film, as it was in Boston. So there was, the Orson Welles Theater. Oh my gosh, we spent every weekend we could to go see like double features of Ingmar Bergman. You know, my favorite thing would be to see Persona and
Wild Strawberries.
yeah, Passion of Anne or something. You would leave leveled, you know, emotionally leveled. But Cries and Whispers, I remember just sitting there stunned. But I would see these, you know, international films, and it Juliet of the Spirits was really the first one where I realized, look at this. Each frame is a piece of art. Every single composition here. And it just hit me like this. This is this incredible art form that cinema is. And again, I loved it, but I didn't know there were jobs in it. I just loved it. And so I started writing and worked as a journalist, you know, wanted to be All the President's Men, and like many people, I wanted to be John McPhee. I wanted to write.
You had a very famous senator from Arkansas, John McClellan,
right,
who had been there forever.
Right.
And somehow you left school to go.
Yes,
work
I took a
for him
semester off.
in
I took a semester off in my first semester of my junior year, and second semester of my junior year, and worked for McClellan. It was really just, honestly, it was a hard time at Harvard for me. I had so much writing to do. I had so many courses. I was ill prepared academically, and I thought, and my advisor said, "Why don't you try?" I mean, I don't even know where the idea came up, but I thought, I'm going to go work in Washington, D.C. I have no idea. And I got an internship with my Arkansas Senator, McClellan, who's very, very politically conservative, but he'll do anything for Arkansas. So if you want to, we worked on solar energy projects. He was head of the appropriations committee, quadrupled the budget for solar energy projects when I was there, because it was for Arkansas. You know, you really learn how. I really learned a lot about politics then. Yes, but I learned that politics is a very slow way to move people, to change hearts and minds. You know, it would be an incremental, tough slog. And so I became a little disillusioned with politics, but I didn't know what else I wanted to do. So I just kept going to graduate school, to be honest. I would get scholarships. So I went to Washington University. I went to Grenoble, in Grenoble.
Again, in political science.
Yeah, just studying, just to bide time until I figured out what I wanted.
Graduate all these places. You finish in France, in Grenoble, and you come back to the States and you do what?
I was working as a part-time journalist in New York. And then for Nicola Word, for the West End Word. Then I went to graduate school again. That's when I went to Washington University. And then.
That's in St. Louis, right?
And I was I was in the PhD program for political science. And I remember being in the library one day and looking up on the shelf and seeing all these theses that, the PhD candidates had completed. And you would like, blow the dust off of them and realize no one's ever read this work since they did it. And it seemed to be very, very isolating and not really what I wanted to do. So I started working at KMOX radio. If anyone lives in the Midwest, KMOX, because they used to broadcast the baseball games. So I worked at KMOX as a journalist. So I started writing with them, and I started working as a journalist. And I've never tried to give my whole life story here in 5 minutes. But what happened during that time, I started writing, I started working, I got recruited to be an editor of St. Louis Magazine, which I became without really knowing what an editor does. And I started working at St. Louis Magazine, writing, and kind of got the magazine to a good place where the publisher could sell it. That was her intention. It's like she wanted to make it viable to sell. And I worked on it for 3 years. We did that. And in the meantime, I was watching movies at night. And I know probably everyone listening to this did the same thing. You just start getting on these jags. And I'm watching all the Ava Gardner films. And I watched all the Ava Gardner films, then I'm watching everything with Paul Newman. everything with Paul Newman. I'm watching everything that Hal Ashby directed. Whatever it was, I would just start putting in videotapes, I guess it was then. I went to my own movie school, and I thought, I want to write for the movies. And anyway, it all kind of came together that you could do something else besides be a teacher or
but I
doctor.
heard did you act as well?
Then I came to LA, I came to write, and I was at that time dating a TV director, and he said, I think you'd be a phenomenal actor. And I had danced all through secretly, through my 20s, and I liked performing, and I thought, oh, I would really like that. So I just started studying acting, and then I started working as an actor and a writer. But I got a part-time job is really what changed the course of my life. During that time, studying an acting class, very dedicated. And I worked a little, I worked a little on.
Who was your teacher? Who was your acting teacher?
Milton Katselas.
Aha. We know all about Milton. Yes.
Yes, we do. He was quite controversial, but a really good acting teacher.
Yes.
So I studied with him for 7 years. And as someone said, you studied with him for 7 years and you got out? And I said, yes, I did. But he was a
So did Leah Remini.
What'd you say?
So did Leah Remini. Is that
Yes.
right?
Oh, there were Kyle Chandler. We had great people in my class.
No, I mean they got out, meaning.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Yes.
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 We got in, we got out.
Got
other.
Got it.
We'll leave that to another discussion. Right. But what I appreciated about that time was I was on set. It's really good to be on set. It's really good to see what's happening. And I would always, have these guest starring roles, and I would walk around and would make someone like you crazy, Hawk, because they would be like, where is she? Like she's not in her trailer. But I was very interested in what was going on all around me, on set. But I was also realizing, well, I loved it all. I don't know what to say. I loved it all.
Well, first of all, you have to, not on camera here, but later you're gonna have to tell me. I want to YouTube you in some of the TV shows that you were in, because I've never seen you act.
Yeah. Well, my repertoire is very, very small. My cousin Debbie does this. She goes, "Girl on Bus," and then a woman with laundry basket. Those are my roles. But I did have a scene with
that TV director. Didn't give you a starring role in one of his shows.
He gave me not really. I had the best time I had was Carl Franklin hired me for High Crimes. I played this really a military attorney of dubious character, and it was really fun. I had a couple of days work, and with Morgan Freeman though. That was something.
Does Morgan remember this?
I saw him years later. I saw him at the AFI tribute years later. And I don't know if he remembered. I don't know if I was that memorable, but I remembered him. You lock into something that is in another world when you deal with those actors, Hawk. I know but it is unworldly. I don't even know what to say. It's another dimension.
The real pros.
You are suddenly you are so deeply into something else.
All right. So now you're acting, you're doing all this kind of stuff. How do you get a job starting at Film Independent? Where did that come?
A friend of mine from college had another friend out here, and she was working at what was then called IFP West. And she said, they're looking for, I think, I don't know, it was a programming director. That's what it was, a programming director. And the director that time, he hired me as part-time because I needed to go on auditions, and I was writing my screenplays, and I was doing what everyone in Hollywood is doing, what everyone's coming to do. I wish I could talk to all of you people. Just keep doing it. It'll all work out. Just keep, I was waiting tables. I was whatever I was doing. And this was a part-time gig. And so I took it, and very shortly after I took it, like a few months after I took it, they fired me. and everybody along and the entire staff, because they ran out of money. They went bankrupt. And a few months later, one of the board members from IFP West at that time called me and said, would you be interested in coming back and helping us get back on our feet? And I was like, excuse me, my checks bounced from like I couldn't pay my rent from what, after you all fired me. And he said, no, well, I'll pay your check. I will pay you back. Let's just come, start here. And then I said, well, just understand, I'm an artist. I'm an actor. I'm here. I will be pursuing
Artist.
art. Yes. And so they let me, they said, no, we hired all the people who didn't love movies. We would now like to hire someone who loves movies and is very involved in our community. And let's see how that goes. Because I said, I didn't know anything about writing grants and running a nonprofit at that time. But it went well. I really
moved up pretty quickly.
Well, I was the only one there, Hawk. I wasn't moving up. It wasn't anybody above or below me. I had a volunteer, part-time person that time.
Wow. So that.
But I believed in it. I believed in independent film. I believed in those filmmakers. I mean, I remember buying Xerox paper out of my salary, what it was somewhere tiny, and watching filmmakers come in and use the Xerox machine. I remember going, oh God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to buy more Xerox paper, but I believed in those voices. I believed in people telling their stories. I have, my whole life, I just tell that story. And how can we create what I thought is we would create an organization that would support these artists and make a community of artists. And that's all, and I would be a part of that community, but we would do it together. And that resonated with the board, and I was able, I'm very persuasive when I believe in something. And I'm very,
don't know, Dawn, that's very true.
I can get, I got companies to sponsor our programs, to sponsor the organization, to turn the, Independent Spirit Awards into something that was bigger. And
was it your idea for the tent in Santa Monica?
Diana Zahn's story, I want to give her full credit. I don't remember how we got to the tent, but she was instrumental in all of that. She was our Spirit Awards producer. Again, we'd had these event producers before, and I said, well, how about someone who produces movies? Let's have that person help us with the Spirit Awards. And she did, and she was terrific.
Well,
so I'm not going to take credit for the tent. I just want to make that. I don't even remember how we got to the tent.
Okay, we're going to move on to after you're running Film Independent, and I'm an officer at the Motion Picture Academy, and we knew that Bruce Davis was about to retire, so we put together a search committee to meet a whole bunch of people as a possible new, at that time was going to be called the new executive director of the Motion Picture Academy. And we're sitting in one of the offices, and in comes Dawn Hudson. And tell me, I want a little background now, if you will. What was your research? Did you know who was on the committee? What were you doing getting ready for this big interview? Or again, were you just like, la, 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 I don't know, I'll just go in and talk?
Y'all were very secretive, if you remember. I got a call from your search, from the search firm, and they were saying, we'd like to come talk with you. I knew Tom Sherrick. I didn't know, I don't think, maybe I knew who else was on the officers, but I don't think I did. I think it was, I was whisked in. I was taken up to that 7th floor into that office, and had no windows. We were all just sitting there. But it's funny, it all comes back to books here. I was reading Isabel Wilkerson's first book, The Warmth of Other Suns. And it turns out Phil Robinson and Annette Bening had also read it or were reading it. And we started this conversation about the about that book. And I remember, and Jim Brooks was there, and you were there.
Did.
And Sid Gannis was there. Tom was late, which is why we were just vamping a bit and just talking. And I had this impression of the Academy in my mind of being quite remote and not just quite remote. Let me just say that, just quite remote. And I sat there with all of us talking, Hawk, you know, all of us, and thought, wait a minute, these are just artists. These are artists like all the other artists, you know, and these are, I understand this group. I get this group. And I had such a positive impression. I didn't have as necessarily that same warmth coming from the Academy prior to that meeting. So I went into it with just like, what the heck? I was very happy at Film Independent. I had no, I wasn't looking for a job or anything. I just thought I'll meet everyone. And that was a really nice meeting, Hawk. And I thought this organization could really, really be something for artists around the world. I just thought of that absolutely then.
And you had I think you had a second in the small office. And then, without going into detail, I will just say, as Dawn mentioned earlier, if she wants something, she's very persuasive. And let me just say that at a certain point in front of the whole entire Board of Governors, when we introduced the search committee, introduced Dawn, she was incredibly persuasive and she got the job. And I just want to say, happy anniversary. It's been 10 years.
Amazing.
Exactly 10 years you've been on that job.
Yeah.
So, congratulations.
Thanks, Hawk. Thank you. Well, it was that support that y'all gave me in that room that continued throughout. You know, all of you in that room, you were amazing. You were amazing. You really, we all signed on for a new vision. All of us, I think of that. Don't you think, in those two meetings?
Yeah.
We said, we want the Academy. You kept saying, we want the Academy to be relevant. I remember you're saying that over and over, relevant. We want it to be in this century. We want it to be more, modern and progressive and contemporary. And so can we talk about the most fun we had in the world when you were president?
Sure.
Okay, because that's what I've been waiting for. So I'll tell my story now. Hawk has 1 year left as governor on your term. And it was very unusual to the idea of running for president for 1 year. But you had a passion about the Academy, like I had a passion about the Academy and what this iconic institution could be. And you were very persuasive, Hawk, when you spoke about that passion to the board and said, just give me a year. I I know I have 1 year, but just give me that year. And, you said, Dawn and I will make things happen in the way you want it to. And so you came in and I remember the first time I met Molly, your wife, who said, oh, you're going to get to know another side of Hawk. I call him the ambassador of fun. It was from day one. We've got a lot to do and we're going to have fun doing it. And you have this great way of leading. It's very inclusive. It's very collaborative. And it's also, do not suffer fools. You do not. Like you're getting on board and we're moving fast. This train is going fast. So let's go. And so that was the plan. And from that, it was, the world is our oyster. It really was. It really was like, wait a minute, we've been shut down. We've been closed down. We haven't been as transparent to members. Let's have a member meeting. But the first meeting in 90 years that the Academy had of its members that I know of, like that. But the most fun was the night that we stayed over. I don't know if people understand. And when the night we stayed over, that sounds bad. Let me move on from that. Let me clarify. when the nominations are given to me and to the president and to our, senior team in secret, the night before they're announced, the whole,
Well, we closed down the office.
yes,
No phones, no nothing, because
yes.
we can't leak any of this. So
Right.
go ahead, Dawn. Go ahead.
Exactly. So we're on lockdown, and this is a tradition. I mean, you just do this, and so if you're staying there that night, you have no communication with the outside world. And so Hawk elected to stay there. He was like, I'm president for 1 year. I'm not missing a minute. So you stayed there, and usually people go to sleep at some point on their couches or on the floor, right? And Hawk was, why would we go to sleep? Like you would go up and down the stairs and all the rooms. And then finally, I don't know why you said, let's practice yoga. That will make us that will keep us away. I don't even know what the impetus for that was. We did yoga in your office. It was hilarious.
Yes.
And then we went before, it was Seth MacFarlane, right? Seth MacFarlane
and Emma Stone.
And Emma Stone we're going to announce. So they're there. They come like at 3:30 or something in the morning to get makeup and, to get into and to read the list for the first time. So they were doing that. And then we went, you told me this story about you and Robert Redford. And I think it's in your book. I don't know if if people haven't read your book, tell that story one more time, because I can't.
It's too long. We got so many ants. You can read the book.
All right, read the book. But anyway, we went outside. You explained this story to me about you and Robert Redford, and you said this is like such a big moment. We're going outside and we're doing this primal screaming. So we went out behind the Wilshire building and behind the theater, and we're screaming at the top of our lungs. And by the way, it's very relaxing afterwards. You're very calm. So we went in and
did it before I went on stage.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. You did before you went on stage.
So now,
that's right.
That was a fun year. But after that, there were a lot of crises. By the way, I just want to say, I did start really pressing with you the idea of diversity.
Oh, Hawk, let's talk about persuasion. First of all, we had that meeting a membership meeting where we discussed, and I don't think this is breaking any confidences, but just we discussed, we have this quota system and we can only allow, 10 people, 6 people, whatever it was per branch, is depending on how many people died in the branch that year is how many people we could invite in. And what that did was limit the people you could invite in to the most senior people in that field, the most credited, the most senior, which usually they were much older, God bless, and usually white and male. And so if you have that system where you're taking just 6 people, the future of the academy is dire. It's not going to be young. It's not going to be people under, it won't be women. It won't be diverse. It did not bode well for us, that policy. And we asked in this membership meeting, wait a minute, why are we keeping these quotas in place if people meet our criteria? Why wouldn't we want an artist to come in? Why do we have the 6 people we can let in, but there are 10 more, 20 more, sometimes 30 more people, cinematographers who should absolutely be in the academy? Or, why do they need to wait another 20 years? So you really helped change that policy.
I remember the one, I don't know that I'm divulging anything, but at a music branch meeting, I stood up and you were right there with me, and I said, why is Prince not a member of the Academy? I mean, his song in the 1980s was defining, and continued to do. At any rate, we got Prince in, and it's kind of started that ball rolling.
If you recall, you went to every single branch meeting, Hawk. You had that conversation with every single branch.
This isn't about me. Come on, we got to go back to you.
Okay, but it was we started that questioning of our policies, and right. it was important. It was really important because we said this from my first year. how is this academy going to stay relevant? How's our business going to function? How are we going to represent artists around the world? Well, let's look at what is standing in the way of that. And we created, all the new technology to
And
support it.
we were doing all this, and then Oscar's So White happens.
Right. Well, it takes a
Now,
while to catch up.
I've said that, and I believe this, that being the CEO of the Academy is a real balancing act. Maybe talk through, I don't need the inner workings of all that, but I believe we were already on our way, and that particular year, unfortunately, no Black or Hispanic actors or actresses were nominated.
Right.
It wasn't that we were shunning them. It just happened to be that year. But in that year, other things were happening in the world, and how you had to ride that, surf that big wave.
Well, absolutely. The whole board did. But we had been putting these policies in place. We had been reaching out to members around the world. And I mean, especially in the United States, I would say then we had much more global initiative in the last years after that. But we were reaching out, but the membership had just started kind of catching up to the real world. It really, Hawk, it was, these were internal policies that were changing. These were committees that were starting to change. This was starting to change the culture at the Academy, but it hadn't reached full fruition. And at the same time, the industry, what films is the industry making? What artists is the industry supporting? What films are being marketed out, in a larger way? So the Academy is one piece of the puzzle, not all of it. But that year we did nominate, we did not just nominate all white actors and actresses, but there were some good performances that, I'm not saying that people shunned. I'm just saying it felt like, wow, this is a trend at the Academy. It's a mostly white male membership, and they're nominating white, in the actor category, white people, which is what the public looks at. The public looks at the actors, and the public looks at the, I would say, the best picture and the actors. So I think you're saying the Academy was on a better track, but we hadn't reached all of our goals, right? At that time, Hawk, I would say. So then we had, and this is, by the way, the second year in a row. It's not the first year, it's the second year. So we did, the Oscar So White hashtag really took hold, and it was not, it was indicative of what was not happening in our industry. And so the board, and Phil Robinson was head of the membership committee at that time. He was the secretary and head of membership and governance. And he had been preparing a lot of changes in committees and governance and structure anyway. And he said, well, no better time to introduce this than now. So let's all meet together. So we had an emergency board meeting that night, because I felt, and the board felt, if we don't signal something to the public, this isn't business as usual. Is not okay with us. The Academy didn't want to continue down that path. We wanted to signal that we want change too. And so that board had an emergency meeting and came up with really terrific goals, and really terrific goals to show our intention that they've never stopped since then. But that was a night.
How's the job changed from 2011 to 2021? What's different about it now than it used to be, or is it basically the same stuff?
Oh no, I think it's hugely different, Hawk. It's hugely different. There wasn't. We were introducing, even talking about, we need a membership that represents the artists, the real artists around the world. Well, there would be people like, what do you mean? Why do we need to change anything? We're the Academy. We don't need to change anything, And now there's much more momentum in the other direction. There's much more like, of course, we want to embrace artists around the world. Of course, we want to represent the best of the best. We want the A team. We can't leave out, we can't leave out everyone who makes the A team. We want the best A team we can get. And so there's that mentality, I think, is very different for the Academy. And I think, when the museum was just a dream, and it was a dream from the very beginning, and now to see that materialize and be real and not be something we just talk about and dream about, that's a very big difference for the Academy. Governing the Academy, I think, is being a part of the governance of the Academy is much more, let's say, I think we are all focused in the same direction. I think it's there was a lot of voices, very passionate voices in different directions for many years. And I feel like people are very passionate about this iconic organization, thank God. And now they're passionate in this more in the same direction of let's moving it forward.
Close your eyes a minute. Close your eyes and just think about very quickly, what is your favorite thing about this job? You can open them when you're ready.
People. It's all, it's everyone I've met. It's all the people. And I talk about how passionate I am. I meet people every minute of this job who are just as passionate. And it's just, it's incredible.
Good answer. What's the hardest part of the job?
I think what I described before, the hardest part was kind of getting all the passionate voices looking in the same direction. It was really, and it isn't because people were just obstructionist. It wasn't that. It was just like, no, we believe over here, and no, we believe over here. And it was just trying to say, let's all come together for a vision of the Academy that is truly a global community of artists who can communicate this art.
Okay, so I have a question, and you know me very well, and you know how much I am a proponent of watching movies on the big screen. That's where I believe at communal effort. So why do you think
We all do.
watching films on the big screen matters?
Do we all miss it more than anything right now?
Yeah.
If you didn't think that before the pandemic, you really, right now, I would give I cannot tell you what I would pay to go into a theater and watch a movie. Someone said they had the chance to watch a preview of one of her films with the director, and they rented out the theater in Westwood, and she started crying when the music came in through the speakers. And that's, I think, what will happen to all of us. But to have a communal experience, it's even if you want, the difference between watching a movie on your own, which I do, nonstop, basically, now that we're here alone, to having that, it's a spiritual experience when you're in that room with other people.
Well, so now the Academy has had to change its rules because of the pandemic. And I don't want to go through all the ramifications of the rules, but do you think that once the pandemic is over and we get back to seeing movies in theaters, do you think the rules will go back to the way they were? Or do you think the Academy is now going to be, you can watch movies that are made for Apple Plus or Netflix or Peacock or whatever, along with movies that play on the big screen? Do you think they're all going to be eligible for Oscars next year?
I think listen, we had those companies making movies that were eligible prior to the pandemic. As long as they're meeting our eligibility requirements, God bless. They're putting films in theaters. They're allowing people to.
They were gaming the system a little bit. So go ahead.
Well, anyway, I think our rules, putting theatrical first will always be a part of the Academy because it's.
Good answer. You must be a politician. You must have taken a lot of political.
A lot of political science.
Very good. Very good. How has access to working in the entertainment industry changed if you are a woman or a person of color?
I think people are aware of the inherent obstacles that were there before. I really truly think that we had a lot of discussions with with studios, independent companies, when we were bringing our inclusion standards, when we were creating them and then bringing them to the public. And we had meetings all summer long with everyone, and people were very supportive, but they were also very aware that unconsciously, just traditionally, the system had just been set up where certain people got through, got support, got the second film, got the third film, got the fourth, and others had not. And I feel like there's an awareness of that now. Has it been completely changed and eradicated and all, everything is equal? No. But is there an awareness that we haven't been the most supportive of all voices in the past? Yes. And I think there's real effort towards that now, so that it impacts women, it impacts people from underrepresented communities who were not at the table before.
Okay, so what advice would you give men and women who want to be in our business today? Because I'm sure there's people out there who are listening and would like an answer to that. What do I do? How do I do it?
I speak to a lot of young people. And by the way, on the subject of women, I was speaking to a Stanford business class, and the women were saying, I don't think your industry is very friendly towards women. And I said, you're thinking of a few years ago. You have to come back into it. You have to see it now. It's different now. And so I do speak to a lot of young people, and when they're frustrated and they can't get a job in the industry right now, and I say, do what I did. You educate yourself about movies right now. Just watch movies, watch director's cuts, listen to, there's so much material even on YouTube, directors talking about, cinematographers talking about their work, makeup artists talking about their work. So just keep educating yourself now. And I would also say, you don't know exactly the path, right? I thought I would work as a writer and actor, and I'm working, in a community of artists whom I, have looked up to my whole life, and in a way I never would have expected. So it can be very satisfying in different forms.
Well, talking about your movies now, what are your 5 favorites? Because we always ask that at the end of our questioning. Do you have?
I remember you're asking that of Billy Ray, and he had his 100.
He had 100. But he had his top 5.
Yes. And I approach this differently. So I already talked to you a little bit about this. Honestly, right now I'm watching legal films. Don't ask me why. I just started down this. So I watched A Few Good Men, and now I'm watching The Firm, and I'm watching, it's just how we do, isn't it? You take a thread and you start pulling it. So I can't go into this film or that film, but I will tell you, I told you about Juliet of the Spirits was a complete, changing moment for me in that film.
You watched it straight, right? You weren't.
No, I just went into, I was at Brattle Street Theater and Cambridge, and I was sitting, just because I don't know why. You're in exam week and you just want looking for something else to do. And I thought, oh my God, I had no idea. This isn't just, mad world. This isn't entertainment. I mean, it was really struck me for the first time. So then that's what started that whole idea of film and art. But then I saw She's Gotta Have It was huge for me. Huge. This was after I was in graduate school in Washington, in St. Louis at Washington University. I was sitting in that theater thinking, now I've seen all of these other, international films and foreign films, but I'd never seen an American director be so personal and have such a voice in that way. That was life-changing. And then I'm trying to think, I would go on to see, like Todd Haynes' Safe meant it was huge to me.
You must have liked independent movies.
I did. I like these voices. It's not to say, you put anything with Shirley MacLaine in front of me and I'm all in. Oh my gosh. I think she's from Trouble with Harry to Irma La Douce to The Apartment. You know, I can do the classics, and there's nothing to beat. What could beat The Apartment? What? It couldn't.
Not many, not many.
But these were the ones I'm telling you are the kind of life-changing films for me. Brokeback Mountain was one of those weirdly. I thought I would die of sadness when I saw Brokeback Mountain. I thought it was the perfect melodrama. It's perfect. And so there.
Okay, so what's your next goal? What other? If you're going to tell me the museum opening and people coming in, that's okay. That's a great goal.
Oh,
you have a goal.
that's it. You think they're? Yes, that's it.
I could answer it. See, I know you.
That's our goal. We're so excited.
That's what we're all hoping for, right?
Yes.
Right.
It's beyond your imagination, though, Hawk. It's beyond your dreams. I promise.
Yeah.
It's going to be our dream house.
So let me ask you, I got a question from our residents, and you know, all of our residents are they have to stay in their rooms. So they're kind of, they're captive audience, and many of them are Academy members. Is there a way, because this was a question from them, is there a way once the nominations come out that we can on channel 22, which is just these people, can we get the movies to be able to be screened on our private channel in the home? Because I would say at least probably half of the residents are Academy members.
But can't you can see them on Academy Screening Room. You can stream on Academy Screening Room.
Each one can see it in their own room.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, I see what you're saying. Well, certainly the Academy members can screen it in their own room on Academy Screening Room.
But I must tell you that they have to have Apple TV or something on it. These are people in their 80s and 90s that it's incredibly difficult to do that. I'm just maybe we can talk to somebody.
We will work.
What we can do for them to be able to see it.
We absolutely am going to work with you in getting COVID safe protocol for those members to get onto their Academy Screening Room 100%. Okay. Great. We'll get that done.
I have enjoyed this immensely. I hope you have. And I got to know so much more. As much as I've known you, there are things that I learned today that I didn't know, and I hope everybody else out there had a great time. I know you've got a heart out. You're off to the next thing, and just give me a favor. Call me at 1 a.m. when you get the nomination. No, I know you can't.
For your little yoga exercise.
No,
yes.
But,
I like your hoodie too, Oscar. I mean, Hawk. Nice.
Yeah, I wear it. This is my everyday clothes these days.
Nice.
Thank you for being here. Jen, anything else that we have to do, or can we say goodbye to Dawn and let her get on her way?
I think we can say goodbye to Dawn. Thank you so much for being with us. I, at some point in the future, want to tell you how much I adore Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's like one of the best places in the world.
Oh, we have to talk. Thank you.
Okay.
I love that. Thank you, Freda. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Hawk. It was, and it's such a pleasure to be with you.
A lot of fun.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.